June. For most people, it's simply another month on the calendar, but during World War II, 2 dates in June helped shape the outcome of the largest conflict in human history. On June 4, 1942, far out in the Pacific Ocean, American forces faced a Japanese fleet that seemed nearly unstoppable. At that moment, Japan controlled vast territories across Asia and the Pacific. Many believed its navy was the most powerful force on Earth. Then, just 2 years later, on June 6, 1944, Allied soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy in the largest amphibious invasion ever attempted. Thousands would die before the day was over. Both battles unfolded on different continents, against different enemies, under completely different circumstances, yet together they marked the moment when the Axis powers began losing control of a war they once appeared destined to win. This is a story of Midway and D-Day. 2 June battles, one turning point in history. To understand Midway, we first need to understand how dangerous the situation looked in 1942. Only 6 months earlier, Japan had stunned the world with its attack on Pearl Harbor. The strike crippled much of the American Pacific Fleet and shattered the belief that the United States was safe from direct attack. In the months that followed, Japanese forces advanced with remarkable speed. Hong Kong fell, Singapore fell, the Philippines fell. Large portions of Southeast Asia came under Japanese control. Across the Pacific, island after island was captured. Every victory strengthened the image of an empire that could not be stopped. Meanwhile, Germany continued dominating much of Europe. For the Allies, the future appeared uncertain. Many military planners feared that Japan's next move would push even deeper into the Pacific and further isolate the United States. But while Japanese commanders prepared their next offensive, American intelligence officers were fighting a different battle. A battle fought not with ships or aircraft, but with information. Inside a secure room known as Station Haipo in Hawaii, cryptanalysts worked day and night attempting to decode Japanese naval communications. The breakthrough they achieved would become one of the most important intelligence victories of the entire war. Japanese Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto believed that destroying America's remaining aircraft carriers was the key to victory. His plan was bold. Capture Midway Atoll, force the Americans to respond, then destroy them in a decisive battle. From the Japanese perspective, it was a perfect strategy. What Yamamoto did not know was that American codebreakers had already uncovered much of the plan. The Japanese repeatedly referred to a target identified only as AF. American analysts suspected AF was Midway. To confirm it, Midway sent an uncoded message reporting a water shortage. Soon afterward, Japanese communications mentioned that AF was experiencing a lack of fresh water. The mystery was solved. The Americans now knew where the attack would occur. More importantly, they knew roughly when it would happen. As June approached, American carriers quietly moved into position northeast of Midway, waiting, watching, preparing for an opportunity. On the morning of June 4th, Japanese aircraft struck Midway Island. Bombs exploded across airfields and defensive positions. Pilots reported that a second strike might be necessary. At the same time, Japanese commanders began receiving reports of possible American naval forces in the area. Suddenly, their carefully planned operation became far more complicated. Across the ocean, American carrier aircraft launched in search of the enemy fleet. The early attacks achieved little. Torpedo squadrons suffered devastating losses. Many pilots were shot down before reaching their targets. Some historians have described these attacks as nearly suicidal, yet their sacrifice produced an unexpected advantage. Japanese fighter aircraft descended to low altitude to engage the attackers. Defensive formations became disorganized. At the worst possible moment for Japan, American dive bombers arrived overhead. What happened next took only minutes. The carrier Akagi was hit, then Kaga, then Soryu. Explosions erupted across the decks. Aircraft waiting for launch became fuel-fed firestorms. Bombs and ammunition detonated. Crew members fought desperately to save their ships, but the damage was catastrophic. Later that day, the fourth carrier, Hiryu, was also mortally damaged. In a single battle, Japan lost 4 fleet carriers. The losses extended beyond ships. Hundreds of aircraft were destroyed. Many highly trained pilots and crewmen were killed. These were men Japan could not easily replace. The psychological impact was equally severe. For the first time since Pearl Harbor, the Japanese Navy had suffered a major defeat. Midway did not guarantee Allied victory. Far from it. The war would continue for years. Bloody campaigns still lay ahead at Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. But Midway changed something fundamental. Japan would no longer control the pace of the conflict. From this point forward, the initiative slowly shifted toward the Allies. The tide had begun to turn. Yet while America and Japan fought across the Pacific, another struggle remained unresolved: Europe. And the challenge waiting there would require an operation on a scale never before attempted. By 1944, Allied leaders understood that defeating Nazi Germany required more than air raids and naval blockades. A return to mainland Europe was essential. For years, preparations took place across Britain. Troops arrived from the United States, Canada, and throughout the Commonwealth. Equipment accumulated in enormous quantities. Ships filled ports. Aircraft crowded airfields. Military planners studied maps, beaches, tides, weather forecasts, and German defences. Secrecy became critical. Through elaborate deception operations, the Allies convinced German intelligence that the invasion would likely occur elsewhere. Even as thousands of soldiers prepared for Normandy, many German commanders remained uncertain about where the main attack would land. Everything now depended on a single day, June 6, 1944. Shortly after midnight, the invasion began. Thousands of paratroopers crossed the English Channel under darkness. Their mission was to land behind enemy lines, seize key objectives, and disrupt German communications before the beach assaults began. Many landed far from their intended drop zones. Some became isolated. Others formed small groups and continued fighting despite confusion. As dawn approached, the largest amphibious invasion in history moved toward Normandy. More than 5,000 vessels crossed the Channel. Battleships, destroyers, transports, landing craft. The scale was almost impossible to comprehend. For many soldiers crowded inside landing craft, fear was unavoidable. Some were seasick, some prayed, some sat silently with their thoughts. Most understood that within minutes they would face combat. Along the Normandy coast, German defences stretched across beaches and cliffs. Concrete bunkers overlooked the shoreline. Machine gun nests commanded wide fields of fire. Artillery positions waited behind fortified locations. The Allies divided their assault across 5 beaches: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. Each would experience its own battle, but Omaha Beach became the symbol of D-Day's brutality. When the first landing craft arrived, conditions quickly deteriorated. Many soldiers disembarked into water deeper than expected. Heavy equipment dragged men beneath the surface. Machine gun fire swept across the beach. Explosions filled the air. Units became scattered. Officers were killed. Plans broke apart almost immediately. For a time, defeat appeared possible. Some sectors of the beach became deadly bottlenecks. Men struggled to move forward. Others searched desperately for cover behind obstacles and shallow depressions in the sand. Yet small acts of leadership began changing the situation. Junior officers gathered survivors. Engineers cleared paths through obstacles. Groups of soldiers found routes up the cliffs. German strongpoints were attacked from unexpected directions. Slowly, painfully, the Allied advance resumed. Elsewhere, airborne forces achieved critical objectives. Bridges were secured, roads were blocked. German reinforcements encountered growing confusion. Throughout the day, naval gunfire and air support continued targeting enemy positions. The battle remained costly, but momentum gradually shifted. By evening, Allied troops had established footholds along the Normandy coast. The price had been enormous. Thousands were killed, wounded or missing. Families across multiple nations would soon receive devastating news. Yet the invasion had succeeded. The Atlantic Wall had been breached. The liberation of Western Europe had begun. Over the following weeks, Allied forces expanded their positions. French towns and villages were liberated. Supply networks grew. Additional troops poured into France. By August, Paris would be free. German armies increasingly fought a defensive war. The road to Berlin remained long and bloody. But after Normandy, the outcome became increasingly difficult for Nazi Germany to avoid. Like Midway 2 years earlier, D-Day did not immediately end the war. Instead, it changed the direction of the war. And sometimes that matters even more. Midway and D-Day were separated by 2 years. One took place in the vast emptiness of the Pacific Ocean. The other unfolded on the beaches of France. One relied heavily on intelligence, aircraft carriers and naval aviation. The other depended upon massive coordination between land, sea and air forces. Yet both battles shared a common legacy. They marked the moments when the Axis powers lost the initiative. At Midway, Japan's expansion was halted. At Normandy, Germany's hold on Western Europe began to collapse. Neither battle delivered instant victory. Neither ended the war overnight. But together they shifted momentum toward the Allies and helped shape the final outcome of World War II. History often remembers famous dates. June 4, 1942. June 6, 1944. But these dates matter not simply because battles occurred on those days. They matter because millions of lives, entire nations, and the future course of the 20th century were influenced by what happened during those critical hours. 2 battles, 2 June mornings, and a turning point that changed the world forever.